Salamander dudes, SaiyanSalamander here, and welcome to another Pokémon Unite character wishlist. In case you missed my last video, then I've already spoken about my top 10 all-rounders that I'd like to see added into the game. And this time I'm going to be talking about my top 10 defenders that I'd like to see get added. The only rules are that I'm not going to be talking about any legendary, mythicals, starters, or evolutions on this list. Mainly because these four categories kinda took up most of the lists I made, so I figured I'd give them their own video in the future instead. Like I said last time, I wanted to say a huge thanks to my friend Tom for helping me come up with a bunch of these ideas, since he's played a lot more MOBAs than me, so he knows a lot more about what kind of moves and abilities would work, and what wouldn't work. We're not game devs though, so we don't really know how to balance things, so some Pokemon may seem a little bit too broken. Also, like last time, I'm going to be tagging another content creator at the end of the video, to make their own Pokemon Unite character wishlist. But if you don't get tagged, feel free to make your own wishlist, and tag me so I can check it out. With all the introductions out of the way, let's kick things off with my number 10 pick. So Garbodor originally just started off as a joke tweet from me, saying that I want Garbodor in the game so I can visually show people how trash I am at playing Unite. No offense to Garbodor of course, but it is literally the trash heap Pokemon. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought Garbodor would make a fun character to play as. Its general passive is Stench, and it causes Garbodor to constantly release a repulsive odour from its body. And being close to this Pokemon for too long causes the foe to take minor damage and gives them a slowed down fear condition, so melee attackers may want to keep their distance and find another target. So there's two things about auto passives that I discovered since the last video. The first is that they don't typically have names like I gave them all, but since I already started naming them, I thought I might as well continue the trend. The second thing is that not all auto passives are necessarily free hit passives, as currently Garchomp, Charizard, and Blissey all have an auto passive that don't activate on the third hit, which gives me a little bit of freedom while designing these characters. Garbodor's auto passive is called Garbage Roulette, and on every fourth hit, Garbodor throws a random piece of trash at the opponent, that has a different effect depending on the type of trash thrown. I haven't really theory crafted all the different types of trash, but maybe one could poison the foe, one could stun, one could cause fear, and many different other effects. And you'd be able to see what the effect is about to be dealt by watching what trash Garbodor is throwing. For Garbodor's starting moves, it starts with Sludge, which damages the foe and poisons them to deal some damage over time, and Venom Drench, which lowers the attack and mobility of the Pokemon in front of them. Another thing I forgot about in the last video is to do with evolve moves, is that the moves can evolve even further. For example, one of Garbodor's evolve moves, Recycle, decreases the item cooldown for Garbodor over a period of time, but once leveled up enough, it turns into Recycle Plus, which gives Garbodor the ability to decrease their allies' item cooldown over time as well, as long as Garbodor's nearby. I'll probably pin a comment to the first video where I'll make Evolve Plus moves for all the all-rounders I've covered, but for now let's keep talking about Garbodor and the rest of their moveset. Aside from Recycle, Garbodor's other option is Toxic Spikes. Garbodor lays a toxic trap down in an area that only Garbodor can see, and if any foe walks into them then they'll be poisoned, with the spikes lasting around 3 minutes. You can stack spikes on top of each other in order to deal more damage, and you can put out 8 layers at a time. Putting out more than that will release the oldest layer of spikes. When Toxic Spikes evolves again into Toxic Spikes Plus, it now won't run out. So once you lay them down, they're not going anywhere until someone trips them or until you put too many out, so you have to release them. It also ups the spikes layers limit from 8 to 12. And finally, you can now immediately set up a second layer of Toxic Spikes, now after the first, though it will increase your cooldown time by 1.5. Alongside Recycle or Toxic Spikes, Garbodor also has Corrosive Gas, which deals damage and disables the opponent's items for a few seconds. And once it evolves into Corrosive Gas Plus, it deals more damage and resets the opponent's item cooldown instead. Finally, you've got Gunk Shot, which deals big damage and poisons the target. For Gunk Shot Plus is where the move really gets interesting, as it depends on the other move that Garbodor has chosen. If you choose Toxic Spikes, then you get a free layer of spikes at where the Gunk Shot lands. Whereas if Recycle is the other move chosen, then it will decrease the item's cooldown a little instead. Finally, we've got Garbodor's Unite move, Trash Storm. It creates a storm of trash around Garbodor that heals it, and any damage against Garbodor just heals it for the damage it would take instead. While it doesn't boost Garbodor's offensive power at all, it does make him an indestructible tank for a while, as it can't be killed because it just keeps blocking attacks and constantly healing whenever the opponent tries to damage them. Garbodor really makes use of the phrase, one man's trash is another man's treasure, since a bunch of its moves is just it throwing trash around, but that trash and waste is a dangerous offensive weapon, and it can even up its defense by constantly recycling items, meaning you'll be able to use them a lot more than other characters. The next Pokemon on this list is the multiplying Pokemon Reuniclus. Reuniclus has such a fantastic ability for a defender Pokemon, being Regenerator. It heals Reuniclus slowly outside of battle, allows it to regen health a little bit quicker on heal pads, and even heals a chunk of HP when this Pokemon warps too. Its auto passive is called Celeriat. Its basic attack damage increases when it reaches its final evolution, and when this Pokemon uses a melee attack, it briefly switches its special attack with its attack stat, but it will swap back when it uses a special move. For its starting move, Solosis begins with Psywave, where the Pokemon will gain a random stat buff before sending out a slow wave that pierces, dealing a random amount of damage. It also gets Teleport, which is the same as Gardevoir, so you've got a nice movement option at the start of the game too. Psywave evolves into one of two moves. The first is Stored Power, which deals more damage based on how many buffs and shields Reuniclus has, and once it becomes Stored Power Plus, then it will deal even more damage based on how many buffs and shields Reuniclus' allies have too. But there would be a damage cap, otherwise it'd be way too broken. Its other option is Psycho Punch, a new move I created where Reuniclus blinks forward and punches the opponent. It locks onto the foe closest to Reuniclus and will teleport behind them and attack. When it evolves into Psycho Punch Plus, Reuniclus punches the foe a second time to deal some extra damage. The options for its second special move is either Trick Room, which creates a rectangular room with Reuniclus at the centre. When the room appears, all Pokemon inside of it swap speed stats with the opposing Pokemon that's closest to them. And the stat swap is treated as a buff or a debuff, which can be used to help stored power as well. When Trick Room evolves, it only swaps stats when the opposing Pokemon is slower than you, so whenever you use it you'll always end up with more mobility than the opponent, which is a nice buff. Your other option is Ally Switch. Reuniclus swaps places with a nearby ally and it grants shields to both Reuniclus and the swap Pokemon. So if you're taking on a strong Pokemon and could use a defender to take the hit, you can swap with one if they're in range, and get them to battle while you recover for a sec. When it evolves, you can swap with a foe now too. So it can be really annoying for enemies and allies I guess too if you don't communicate with them properly, which is a really fun mechanic for a game that for some reason doesn't have a team chat. Finally, we've got Reuniclus' Unite move, which I've named Miracle Room. It creates a large square or rectangular AoE with Reuniclus at the centre of it, and steals all the opponent's buffs and gives them to Reuniclus and their allies while transferring all the debuffs on Reuniclus and their allies to the opponent. Also, if Reuniclus and their allies as well as all the foes within range of Miracle Room don't have any buffs or debuffs, then Reuniclus and their allies in range will all get a random buff while all the foes in range will get a debuff. It's a great move to use in a team fight, since while it doesn't deal any damage, it massively turns the offensive tide of your battle into your team's favour. Overall, Reuniclus is a fantastic defender that thrives off buffs to boost its offensive powers, while also being insanely hard to take down thanks to Regenerator, and its massive endurance stat. Next up on the defenders list is the gripper Pokemon Dusknoir. I think aside from one move and a Unite move, Tom pretty much came up with the rest of the moveset for Dusknoir, and it sounds really fun to play. Its general passive is Frisk, which allows Dusknoir to see enemy item cooldowns and also gives it a defensive boost for everyone currently on cooldown. I think it might be cool to see what other free items the foe has too, and maybe see what level they are, which would definitely be a handy ability to have. I named its auto passive Spirit Shield, and on every 4th hit Dusknoir gains a decaying shield that grows bigger depending on how much damage Dusknoir's taken recently. To start with, Dusknoir has Nice Shade, which is a single target attack that will always deal a fixed percentage of HP, and Mean Look, which it greatly slows down enemies that are looking away from you. Nice Shade can either evolve into Poltergeist, which deals damage to a single target, with increased damage and fear with targets whose items are off cooldown. And when the move evolves again, it deals additional damage which scales based on how many and how high level the opponent's items are. Your other option is Pain Split, which is a great move that really increases Dusknoir's survivability and converts its shields into health. When Pain Split evolves, it becomes a bit more accurate to its in-game version, and steals health from the foe as well, scaling based on how much more HP the foe has than Dusknoir, but will steal a small fixed rate even if Dusknoir's got more health than the opponent. Tom also came up with the idea for Ally Switch as an evolved move option for Mean Look, which is a move I've already spoke about with Reuniclus. Tom came up with the idea for Ally Switch originally for Dusknoir, and while coming up with Reuniclus, I figured Ally Switch would synergize perfectly with Regenerator, so I gave the same move to Reuniclus. So since they share the same move, Ally Switch for Dusknoir does the exact same thing as Reuniclus. So let's talk about Dusknoir's other move option, Shadow Punch. It's a damage dealing move that converts damage on the enemy into shields for Dusknoir. and once it evolves, Shadow Punch appears behind the foe and knocks them back towards you and potentially your fellow teammates. Finally, we've got Dusknoir's Unite move, which is known as Future Punishment. It drags up to 2 opponents into its stomach and teleports them into another location. Dusknoir is known for dragging people and Pokemon into the spirit world, and as a huge fan of Mystery Dungeon, I thought it'd be sick to have Dusknoir transport you into the Execution Zone, where the 2 Pokemon are tied up to a pole and attacked by stabilized claws. We haven't seen such a cinematic Unite move yet, or one that teleports the user and even the foes out of the map, but I think it's such a cool idea and an amazing reference to one of my favourite games that I had to throw it into Dusknoir's Unite move. Dusknoir has almost as great survivability as Reuniclus, with its ability to gain shields and even convert all its shields into health, and even has some fantastic utility thanks to its Frisk ability too, making it a great option as another defender alternative. Ranking number 7 on my defenders list is the dragon Pokemon Goodra. With how popular they all are, I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually get every pseudo-legend playable at some point. So Goodra definitely seems like a good contender on the playable roster at some point. Its ability is Gooey, which decreases the enemy's mobility and possibly attacking speed too, whenever Goodra is hit with a melee attack. As for its auto-passive, Slime Hug, it does the same thing, decreasing the foe's mobility and attacking speed for that nice double debuff, or giving you the ability to debuff a foe even when they're not a melee attacker. For Goodra's starting kit, when it begins the match as a Goomy, Goodra gets Acid Spray, which shoots out some goo in front of it, which slows any foe that walks into the goo or are hit with the move. Its other move is Tearful Look, which lowers the opponent's attack and special attack within a conal radius in front of it. As Goomy levels up and evolves, Acid Spray can become Dragon Breath or a new move I'm calling Slime Surge. Dragon Breath is a ranged breath beam that causes paralysis, and has a piercing effect after it evolves again. As for Slime Surge, Goodra shoots a wave of slime, kind of like a surf at the opponent, which decreases their mobility, and it decreases their attacking speed once it becomes Slime Surge plus 2. Tearful Look can become Protect, which creates a bubble around Goodra while it shields it from attacks. Though you initially can't attack while the shield is up, however after becoming Protect Plus, Goodra's shield lasts a bit longer, and Goodra can attack while the shield's up now as well. Your other option is Acid Armor, which greatly raises Goodra's defense and special defense and leaves a puddle of goo around it, which slows down the enemies that walk through it. After evolving into Acid Armor Plus, Goodra will keep dripping goo after the move is completed for a few seconds, meaning that there'll be more slime on the ground to slow down any enemies that approach you. Finally, we have Goodra's Unite move, which I've named Slime Rain. It's a global move, meaning it affects the entire map at once. Slime rains across the map, which causes enemies to slow down and have their attacking speed decrease too. And it also increases their special cooldowns, meaning it's going to make it harder for them to use any moves while the storm's active. I think it'd be a cute reference since Goodra evolves in the rain, so I wanted it to have some sort of rain related move, and it combined with the rest of Goodra's kit makes it a fantastic defender, capable of slowing even the speediest of characters on the enemy team to a halt. Next one may seem like a little bit of an odd choice, but I love this waterfish Pokemon, and think it's really funny, so my next choice is Quagsire. Quagsire is honestly such a mood. It's like so lazy and just unaware of its surroundings, so I tried to make it a moveset fit that kind of vibe it's got going on. Its general passive is Unaware, which works just like the games. Ignores any buffs that's on the enemies, and ignores any debuffs that are currently on Quagsire. And for its auto passive, I called it Lazy Days, which increases Quagsire's basic attack damage when it's not moving. It starts off with Mud Shot, which shoots a bullet of mud that obscures the foe's field of vision, and Rest, which is the exact same move as Snorlax has got. When Mud Shot evolves, it becomes Mud Bomb, which shoots a ball of mud at the opponent, which explodes on contact, and creates a cloud that obscures the opponent's vision. And when it becomes Mud Bomb Plus, it deals more damage and increases the range of the explosion. The alternative option is Water Pulse, which shoots a sphere of water at the opponent that glides across the ground and bursts on contact, and it can confuse the target and can cause them to hit their allies, with it being able to home in on people when it evolves into Water Pulse Plus. Recover is your first option for evolving Rest, and has Quagsire stay immobile for a couple seconds and have them recover a set amount of HP, and when it evolves into Recover Plus, you can now use Recover while moving, and its healing outputs increase a little bit more too. Your other option is a damage dealing movement option being Waterfall. It has Quagsire swim backwards and slam its head into whatever it comes in contact with, but if it hits a wall then it will slide off them and gain some more speed. And with Waterfall Plus, it gets an increased range and makes range attacks slide off Quagsire's body during the attack, so it'll deal less damage to Quagsire. Finally, you've got Quagsire's Unite move, which I've named Lazy River. Quagsire surrounds itself with a giant whirlpool which traps it and any enemies around the area inside of it. Enemies who are trapped inside get spun around by the whirlpool and take damage, while Quagsire just lies back and vibes while healing itself. I think Quagsire ends up feeling like a bit of a combination between Slowbro and Snorlax, and honestly I just relate to how lazy it is, and I'd defo pick up and play this character if it ever dropped into the game. Finally, kicking things off with the top 5, we've got the drill Pokemon Rhyperior. Rhyperior is a really interesting defender that's based upon building up a defense and then breaking it down to use as offense. Its general passive is Solid Rock. Rhyperior can't be crit and it gains defensive stats when it's close to a terrain like walls or any structure that Rhyperior or its allies and enemies create. Its auto passive is Stone Shooter, and its attack reduces attack speed, and when Rhyhorn finally becomes Rhyperior, its attacks become ranged too. Rhyhorn starts off with Harden, which is a pretty simple defense and special defense increase, and Rock Blast, where Rhyhorn will stand still and fire rock bullets at the opponent, firing more rocks as it levels up. Harden can evolve into Iron Defense, which increases defenses and creates an iron arced spike wall around Rhyperior that hurts enemies that interact with it, and once it becomes Iron Defense, you can reflect range attacks with the wall too. Your other option is Stealth Rock, which works the exact same way as Crustle, and causes the move's effect duration to increase and the rocks to slow down Pokemon too. As for Rock Blast, the first move it can become is Smackdown. Once used, it prevents the target from being able to dash or teleport, and will create a curved wall like Rock Tomb on the opposite side of the target to prevent their escape. Once it becomes Smackdown Plus, it gains an interrupt effect, allowing you to attack the foe even while the opponent's move is in use. For example, you could shoot down a Talonflame that's trying to land a Brave Bird on your team. My favourite part of Rhyperior's kit is its signature move and alternative option to Smackdown, Rock Wrecker. Rhyperior shoots a rock that destroys any created terrain around it. The rock deals damage and has an additional effect depending on what terrain you're around. Iron Defense terrain makes the Rock Wrecker an Iron Rock Wrecker, and you can destroy shields, while Stealth Rock has a kind of shotgun effect that deals more damage close up and spreads the pellets out in front of it. I'm thinking about how Cramorant can randomly shoot Pikachu out of its mouth occasionally. Rhyperior could do the same thing with Geodude, Sandshrew and other Pokemon. Maybe Geodude is just a standard more damage, Alolan Geodude stuns the foes, Sandshrew knocks the foe back, and Alolan Sandshrew may freeze the foe. Maybe all these Pokemon could become minions at some point, and if you're on a map with them, then you have a chance to use them as ammo for Rock Wrecker, or you're guaranteed if you're in range of them, or if you evolve Rock Wrecker into Rock Wrecker Plus. If you're not on a map with any of these minions, I think Geodude would probably be the standard bullet upgrade, with the others being more map specific. Finally, you've got Rhyperior's ultimate, which is Rock Rain. Rhyperior raises its hand into the sky and causes tons of rocks to rain from the heavens, and maybe a couple of minions like Geodude and Sandshrew could fall down too. It has a pretty large AoE and will damage anyone the rocks fall onto. I think that characters like Rhyperior are really interesting, having different effects depending on what map they're on, which gives you something to consider while choosing which character to play, and actually makes him pretty versatile with how much different ammo you can shoot out from its hands. My number 4 choice is possibly my favourite of the starting bird Pokemon, which is the Raven Pokemon Corviknight. We've got 2 bird Pokemon playable in Unite at the moment, and with them both playing completely differently. We got Talonflame as a melee speedster, and Cramorant as a ranged damage character. So I figured Corviknight would be the perfect bird to be a defender. Skarmory would also work really well, and I'd definitely be down for it, but personally I prefer Corviknight out of the two. For its general passive, Corviknight has Mirror Armor, which is extremely handy as it reflects any stat or mobility debuffs that the foe tries to inflict on Corviknight right back at you. As for Corviknight's auto passive, I named it Fear Flight, and on every 5th hit, Corviknight will do a mini sky drop, grabbing the foe and interrupting their move, soaring up into the sky with them before slamming them back down to the ground to deal damage. To start with, Corviknight has Feather Dance, which is the same thing as Cramorant, and Wing Attack, where Corviknight just tries to give a foe a good old smack with a wing beat. When you evolve Wing Attack, you've got the option of Steel Wing, which has Corviknight slice the foe with its wings before raising its defense and special defense, and Brave Bird, which works the same as Talonflame, and reduces the cooldown of its other 2 moves. When Steel Wing evolves into Steel Wing Plus, Corviknight will flap its wings again after the attack to damage the opponent and lower their attack and special attack, while Brave Bird Plus decreases the amount of recoil damage that Corviknight takes. Meanwhile, Feather Dance becomes Roost or U-Turn. Roost grants health to Corviknight and even allies around it, and even lowers the foe's attack and special attack within a certain radius after using a move. As for U-turn, it's basically the same as Volt Switch, except instead of returning in a straight line, Corviknight arcs back to where it was instead, and once it evolves into U-turn Plus, it decreases Corviknight's cooldown for either Brave Bird or Steel Wing. Corviknight is basically the flying Uber of the Galar region, so I decided to name its Unite move Taxi Terror. Corviknight swoops down and grabs the nearest 2 or 3 Pokemon within a certain range, and puts them into the taxi car it carries. Then Corviknight flies up and drops the taxi onto the ground, damaging those inside and any Pokemon on the enemy team within a certain radius of a crash. The bronze medal holder of my defenders list is the Hoodlum Pokemon Scrafty. Scrafty was honestly the hardest Pokemon to theorycraft in this list. I don't know what about it made it so difficult to design for a while, but then I randomly had a flash of inspiration and designed Scrafty in about 10 minutes. Its general passive is Shed Skin. Scrafty wears a hoodie that reduces damage taken from the opponents, as well as recoil damage from itself. And Scrafty will shed the hoodie after enough damage is taken, or when Scrafty is inflicted with a negative status condition, and will regrow the hoodie after enough time passes. Scrafty already has an insane amount of defense and special defense, but the hoodie just makes it even more bulky, and it's going to be annoying to burn, poison, or give Scrafty any other kind of status, since you've basically got to give it 2 negative statuses in a row if you want it to work, since the hoodie will protect Scrafty the first time and it'll be more vulnerable to attack on the second time. Its auto passive is called Headbreaker, and on every third hit, Scrafty will slam its head against the foe, which will break any shields they currently have, which will make Scrafty's next attack hit a lot harder. When Scrafty spawns in at the start of the game as a Scraggy, it comes with Headbutt where it will dive at the foe, and Headbutt them, which causes a stun, and Jump Kick where Scraggy will dash and knee the opponent, which does big damage. However, if there's an opponent in range and Scraggy misses them, it will take minor recoil damage. Headbutt can evolve into Head Smash where Scrafty arcs back its head and slams the opponent with a powerful headbutt that deals recoil damage, but has a recoil reduction after becoming Head Smash Plus. Or Drain Punch where Scrafty punches the foe and heals depending on the amount of damage dealt, and will increase in damage after becoming Drain Punch Plus. As for Jump Kick, it either becomes a more powerful version of itself with High Jump Kick, and does the same thing but with more power, and does even more damage from becoming High Jump Kick Plus. Your other option is a lot more toxic with Swagger, and it raises their attack and special attack but confuses them, so that their controls are messed up and they can damage their own teammates too. With Swagger Plus, Scrafty raises its defense and special defense too, so it can tank hits even when the opponent lands a random hit on Scrafty while being confused. Finally, Scrafty's Unite move is called Hoodlum Hammer. Scrafty slams its knee into the opponent, which knocks them back, and then jumps into the air and dives down to headbutt them, which breaks the ground underneath the foe to deal a bit of AoE damage. Honestly, Scrafty might suit an all-rounder more than a defender with how offensive its move pool is. Having 115 in both defenses made me think that a defender would suit it just a little bit more. If Scrafty was added, I wouldn't be surprised if it was added into either category. Regardless of what role it would be classified as, Scrafty would definitely be a fun character to play as. Taking the second place spot on this list is Aggron, the Iron Armor Pokemon. Aggron is literally the definition of heavyweight, especially with its general passive Heavy Metal, which increases melee move damage and increases knockback on move that cause it, as well as stunning foes longer on any moves that apply the condition. Aggron's so much of a heavyweight that its also passive is literally named after the classification, Heavyweight, and it allows Aggron to knock back the foe on every third hit. As for its starting moves, it comes with Rock Slide, which is the same as Crustle, and Takedown, which is a charge that deals some recoil damage back to Aggron. Rock Slide can become Iron Tail or Metal Burst, whereas Takedown becomes Heavy Slam or Giga Impact. Iron Tail deals damage to the foe that knocks them back after use, and once becoming Iron Tail Plus, Aggron fires off a move like Flash Cannon or Steel Beam at the foe to deal some additional damage. Metal Burst has 2 phases of the attack. The first part has Aggron create an iron wall in front of it which can block an attack, whereas the second phase splinters the wall into shards and fires it back at the opponent, dealing 1.5 times the damage the wall took back to the opponent, which can be increased to double damage with Metal Burst Plus. Heavy Slam is the same as Snorlax initially, however Heavy Slam Plus is a bit different and stuns the opponent by planting any foe Aggron lands on into the ground, kinda like K-Rool's Down Throw and Down Tilt in Smash Ultimate. Giga Impact is an insanely powerful charge that can knock the foe back, and deals more damage at the start of the attack but weakens as the charge goes further. and has high end cooldown lag and charge cooldown to reference having to wait a turn after using the move. After becoming Giga Impact Plus, it can break through the foe's shields and barriers, which can be really handy in paving the way for Aggron and for its team to deal more damage to the enemy. The Unite move I came up with for Aggron is called Iron Fissure. Aggron creates a fissure on the earth which deals damage to the opponents in front of it, and after the chasm in the ground is opened up, metal will pop out that can heal Aggron or grant it shields when at full HP. Aggron's team can't recover HP from them, but they can gain some shields by taking any metal that pops out. Aggron's designed to be a bulldozer-like character that tanks any hit that comes its way and sends any enemy that tries to go near it flying, making for an insanely good defender character that can deal a ton of damage too. Finally, it's time for one of my favourite Pokemon that originated from Kanto. The flower Pokemon Vileplume takes first place on my defenders list. I don't know what it is about the Pokemon, but I've just always really liked it. Vileplume's general passive is Effect Spore, so if anyone tries to attack it with a melee attack, there's a chance that their foe will get stunned, poisoned, or will fall asleep while trying to attack. As for its auto passive, I gave it Strength Sap, so on every third hit, Vileplume will lower the foe's attack and drain a bit of their HP. When it begins the match as a baby little Oddish, it gets Mega Drain, which is a weaker version of Venusaur's Giga Drain, and Worry Seed, which shoots out several seeds out in front of Oddish, but attaches to the foe and gives them the Fear condition. Mega Drain evolves nicely into Giga Drain, which is the same move but powered up more, with Giga Drain Plus increasing the percentage of health drain from Giga Drain. Then your other option is Sweet Scent, which is a charm that pulls enemies towards you so they can't escape, or attack your allies. And with Sweet Scent Plus, it heals Vileplume and gains more health depending on how many foes are charmed. As for Worry Seed, it can evolve into Petal Blizzard, which damages foes in a line, and pushes them back. After evolving the move into Petal Blizzard Plus, it allows you to press the move again, to deal more damage and pull the foe towards you, ready for you and your allies to strike. The second option is Leech Seed. It's a pretty nice evolution from Worry Seed, as it has the same interaction of shooting out several seeds in front of Vileplume, and having seeds attached to the foe. However, the effect that comes from those seeds is very different. Instead of inflicting fear, Leech Seed attaches to the foe and drains HP, while Leech Seed Plus binds the foe to stop them from initially moving for a couple seconds, before slowing their movement until the Leech Seed wears off. Vileplume's Unite move was the hardest thing to theorycraft, so I ended up going with Bloom Doom since I really want to see more Z moves and Mega Evolutions in Unite. Bloom Doom has a similar animation to the actual games, and creates a field of flowers with a giant flower exploding in the middle, dealing damage to any enemy caught up within the explosion, and healing Vileplume and any ally who are within the flower field's range. I think out of all the defenders on this list, Vileplume is probably the most annoying to kill. While it probably won't be able to deal too much damage, the amount of draining and healing it has access to is insane, so it will slowly but surely kill you without barely taking a scratch, making it one tough cookie to crack. I think that's everything I've got to say about my top 10 defenders wishlist, so I hope you enjoyed the video, my dudes. If you did, please drop a like, comment on what defender you'd want to see added most into Unite, and subscribe and hit the bell icon to hear about my videos the second they go live. If you want to see more content from me, then you can see me drop ranks in Pokemon Unite live on Twitch, or see some live playthroughs of games like Fire Emblem Sacred Stones and Kingdom Hearts as well. Also, if you want to hang out more with the rest of the community, then feel free to join my Discord server, which will be linked in the description alongside my Twitch channel. Also, I just want to say a huge thanks to everyone that helped with the video. Steve for the artwork that he made for me that he used in the video, Alecandstuff for letting me use his Partner Wishlist art, and Jarrett for editing the video. All their links will be in the description, so definitely go check them all out. Also, like last time, I'm going to be tagging another content creator to make their own Partner Wishlist video, and this time I'm going to be tagging Jarrett, so keep an eye out on their channel for a Partner Wishlist video in the future. Again, thanks again for watching, and I'll hopefully see you around in the future, my dudes. Until next time, bye!